and I just have a lot of work to do. So that's how I'm feeling today. All right, so we did our on a scale of Patrick, and we're ready to get started. So today we are going to be talking about word identification strategies.
Okay.
All right, and you have a web that you're going to be completing as we go through our lesson today. And today we're going to start working on a strategy that will help you pronounce
Okay.
or dissect long words that you encounter when you're reading. It is called the word identification strategy. So we will learn to dissect words using the strategies. And it says 3 to 4 weeks, but we're gonna do it quicker because um, I don't know, mainly because it's just you and I working together, and I think that you can grasp the concept quickly. Okay. So first of all, what does dissect mean?
Um, to open up.
Okay, to open up. Where have you heard the word dissect used?
I've heard it used when my mom told me how when you get to a certain grade, you get to dissect the frog.
Yeah, so you got to open the frog up, yeah, and examine what's inside, right?
And take out the parts.
Right, and take out the parts, okay? So dissect actually means to divide something or cut something into several parts. And yeah, that's what you do. I actually was absent on purpose that day when they dissected the frog. I was not doing that. So that's exactly what you'll be doing when you use the word identification strategy. You'll be cutting the words up into short pieces that you can easily pronounce. Okay? Usually, once you can pronounce all the parts of a word, you can easily recognize a word. So if you want to add that to your web, you can. So dissect is cutting up the words into short pieces. Okay?
Okay.
Cutting up words into short pieces that you can pronounce. Okay. All right. So if you are able to pronounce any word that you encounter, you will be more likely to understand and more able to discuss what you read. So how will this help you in classes such as English, science, and history?
I'll be able to understand the larger words better.
Okay.
It also kind of comprehension.
Okay. Good job. All right, yeah, you'll be able to answer your teacher's questions in class. You'll be able to get through your reading assignments easily and quickly, and you'll be better able to complete your assignments. And you may even get better grades, but you already get really good grades, don't you?
Yeah.
So that'll help you even do better. All right, so the word identification strategy, you can use it at any time you're reading something and come upon a word that you've never seen before, right? So can you think of situations where that's happened? Where you were reading and you came across a word that you had never seen before?
Um, in my in fifth grade textbook in language.
Okay. All right. So that's a good example. What did you do when you came across the word that you didn't understand or that you weren't familiar with?
Sounding out.
Okay, so you sounded out the word. All right. All right. So we're going to continue with this word identification strategy. So let's go over it, and I'm going to give you your very first cue card. And this cue card is called Steps of the Word Identification Strategy. And it teaches you about what's called dissect, right?
Yep.
So each dissect is basically an acronym. So we're going to go over each part. So step one is to discover the word's context. First, you need to discover the context, right?
Yeah.
So the context is what? Do you know what that is?
No.
All right, so let me explain to you. So the context is the meaning of the other words around the difficult word, right? Have you ever heard your teacher say use context clues to figure out
Yeah.
something? Right. Okay, so you did know it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So many times, if you know the meaning of the words surrounding a difficult word, you can guess what the word is. What do you usually do when you come to a difficult word? You say you stop and sound it out. Okay? All right. So you usually stop and try to figure it out. Well, this step requires you to do the opposite. Okay? So you'll need to skip the difficult word and keep reading to finish the sentence in which the word occurs. Okay?
Okay.
So why would reading the whole sentence help you figure out a word?
It would help you realize what the sentence was talking about.
Right. Yeah, you might be able to use your context clues and figure out what the word means. As an adult reader, I do that all the time. Like when I'm reading for pleasure, sometimes one of my favorite authors, her name is Beverly Jenkins, and she's actually my sorority sister too. I love her books. They're historical fiction. She uses some difficult words sometimes in her writing. So I see the word, but I keep reading, and sometimes I can figure out what that word meant
Yeah.
by continuing to read. So with step one, you don't want to stop and try to sound out the word. You want to keep going, finish the sentence, and use your context clues. Okay?
Okay.
All right, so step two is isolate the prefix. Remember all that work we did on the prefixes?
Yeah.
All right, so that's what you're going to do for step two. You're going to isolate the prefix. So you're going to review the definition of the prefix. We already talked about prefixes. What is a prefix?
The prefix is the small word in the name.
That's right. Okay. So our definition of a prefix is that it is a letter or a group of letters placed at the beginning of a word that's easy to pronounce, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So can you give me a couple of examples of prefixes? You remember some from last time? Or some that you just know off the top of your head?
Popcorn.
Popcorn?
Yeah.
Okay, popcorn, that's a compound word. And that doesn't have a prefix. Can you think of one? You want to look in your folder
Yes.
and see if you can think. You're gonna be like, oh yeah, I remember that prefix.
Bridge.
Oh, that's a suffix.
Crow.
Okay. Did you know that already?
Yeah.
I know you did. All right, so those are just a quick review of prefix. So to do the isolate the prefix step, you must ask yourself, is there a prefix? First, you ask yourself, is there a prefix in this word? Then think about the word beginnings you know as you look at the beginning of a word. Okay, so like re, pre, for, like in forward. So you're gonna think about that. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So if there is a prefix or a beginning syllable that you know, isolate that part from the rest of the word by using a backwards L. We did that. Remember we did that last time?
Yeah.
Okay. So be sure to pronounce the prefix to yourself after you find it. Okay? So for instance, this word right here, delightful. If I were to do the isolate the prefix step on this word, what should I do for delightful? Where would I separate it?
After the T.
That would be almost the whole word. Remember, prefix is a small word. It's either one letter or three letters or two letters. So get your prefix list and see if you can tell me where I would separate this word delightful. Where would my prefix be in this word? Let me see, where's your whole list? Is this it? Like it has all your prefixes on it. Is it in there? Let's see. Yep, that's the suffix list. Okay, there you go. So where would I separate this word? In delightful.
Oh, D.
Mm-hmm. So that's where I would put my backwards L, right?
Yeah.
And then that'll help me. I can read D, and then I will be able to look at the rest of the word and isolate other parts. Okay?
Okay.
All right. So remember that you also have to be careful to look for compound prefixes, right?
Yeah.
And we talked about those the last time as well. All right, so let's look at what comes next in our dissect. Okay?
Okay.
So we did step one is discover the context. That's when you come to a word that you don't know, but you keep reading. You don't try to work with the word right away. You keep reading to see if you can figure it out based on the context, right?
Right.
Step two is to isolate the prefix. Okay, so step three is to separate the suffix. And we worked on the suffixes last time as well. So what is a suffix?
A suffix is a word at the end.
Right, it's the small parts, right? All right, so it's a group of letters at the end of a word, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and it's easy to pronounce
Yeah.
because it's small. So can you think of a suffix?
Um,
You can look at your list if you can't think of one off the top of your head.
ship.
Yep. Okay, so ship is a suffix. All right. Um, so to do the separate the suffix step of the strategy, you must ask yourself, is there a suffix? Right? Because we learned when we were working that not all words have a suffix, right?
Right.
All right, so you got to ask yourself, is there a suffix? Then think about the word endings you know as you look at the ending letters of the word. If there is a suffix ending syllable or word ending that you know, you separate it from the rest of the word by using the forward facing L, right?
Yeah.
And be sure to pronounce the suffix to yourself. All right, so let's look at this word right here. Transportation. Tell me, how would you separate the suffix in this word? Transportation.
Island.
Okay, look at your suffix list and see if that's all it is. In transportation. Because remember, sometimes we have more than one suffix within a suffix. You have ION, but you also have what? Transportation.
Oh, TILN.
There you go. So that's what you would separate, right?
Yeah.
So I would separate it from TION. Okay?
Okay.
All right. So remember to look for compound suffixes as well, because we learned that sometimes there are compound suffixes. All right?
All right.
Okay, so after you have separated a suffix, as soon as you've done that, you should go to the next strategy step.
Say this one.
Yep, you're going to say the stem. So you're going to say the stem. Define the stem. The stem of a word is what is left after you've taken away the prefix and you've taken away the suffix. Okay?
Okay.
That's the stem. If there is no prefix or suffix, then the whole word is the stem, right? For example, in the word unfairly, all right, what is the prefix? What is the prefix in the word unfairly? Good job. So I will put a forward-facing L there, right? And is there a suffix in the word unfairly? Right. So that leaves us with what?
Fair.
Fair. So fair would be our stem. Okay? You see how that works?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So say the stem is the step. So the stem is what's left after you've isolated the prefix and separated the suffix. Okay? If you can immediately say the stem, then you can say the prefix and you can say the suffix together. You now are saying the whole word.
Okay.
Once you can say the whole word, read the whole sentence again and make sure you can understand what it means. Okay? Then you can continue reading, and if you can't say the stem, then you need to go to step 5. Okay?
Okay.
So step 5 is where we examine the stem. So here is our next cue card. And this is called the rules of 2s and 3s. Okay? The rules of 2s and 3s. All right, so when you examine the stem, you need to dissect it into easy to pronounce parts.
Okay.
And to do this, you'll need to apply the rules of 2s and 3s, okay? So let's look at the first rule together. The first rule of 2s and 3s is if a stem begins with a vowel, we're going to separate the first 2 letters to pronounce whatever that word is, okay?
Okay.
If it begins with a vowel. Or if the stem begins with a consonant, we're going to separate the first 3 letters to pronounce it, okay?
Okay.
All right, does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right, and I don't need to go over what is a vowel and what is a consonant. You know that, right?
Yeah.
All right, okay. So how would you remember this rule? How can you remember that the number 2 goes with vowels and that the number 3 goes with consonants? Is there a way you can remember this? Can you think of a way?
No.
No?
No.
All right. Well, I'm going to give you a way to remember it. There are fewer vowels than consonants, right?
Yeah.
So 2 is less than 3. So 2, since 2 is less than 3 and there are less vowels, then we'll remember that 2 goes with the vowels and that 3 goes with the consonants.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
All right. Another way you can remember that is the word vowel has 2 syllables. And the word consonant has 3 syllables. Which one is easier for you, you think?
That constant has 3 vowels. Vowel has 2.
That there are more, that are less vowels than consonants?
Yeah.
Is that okay? Okay, I got you. All right. Once you have the first group of letters, cut off the stem. You need to keep applying the same rule until you come to the end of the word. Then you try to pronounce the stem by saying each of the dissected parts.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So you keep applying these rules until you have actually said the whole stem. Okay?
Okay.
All right? If you can say it, great. Just add the prefix and the suffix to the stem and reread the word in the sentence. Once you understand the sentence, you're ready to continue reading. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Now, let me see. They didn't really tell. Let's go ahead to. All right, let's continue because now we're getting ready to talk about. No, let's practice. We're gonna practice real quick. So let me get your web real quick, and I'm gonna write this word down for you, and we're gonna practice it. So I'm gonna turn it over, and this is our This is our word right here. Okay? All right, so this is our word right here. And I want you to look for a prefix and a suffix in this word. And if you have to, check over your prefix list and your suffix list. All right, let me see something. Let me see your prefixes. Do you see this on your prefixes?
No.
Okay, so you need to erase that. So that's because there's no prefix there. So erase that, and then what we're going to do is apply the rules.
Oh, Davis.
Hmm?
I need this.
Oh, here. Give me this one then. I don't need the eraser. All right. So you found the suffix, so that's good.
Yeah.
So now we need to apply the rules of twos and threes. And when you separate this time, you're just going to do a straight line between your rules of twos and threes.
Okay.
You understand what that's saying?
Yeah.
Okay. So does it start with a vowel?
No.
It doesn't start with a vowel?
Yeah.
Okay. So if it starts with a vowel, we divide off the first two letters. Good. Okay. So now we have the next part. Does it start with a consonant or a vowel?
Consonant.
All right. So then we divide off what?
The three letters.
Good. Okay. So now you've divided this into parts that you can easily pronounce. So what's this?
Alternator.
So put it all together.
Alternator.
Do you even know what that is?
No.
Your dad does, because he's a mechanic. So an alternator is important to start a car. He knows what that is, but you know how to pronounce it. All right, so that's how we do apply the rules of twos and threes, okay?
Okay.
All right, so if you can't make sense of the stem after using the first rules of twos and threes, then you can use the second rule, okay? The second rule is if you can't make sense of the stem after using rule 1, divide off the first letter of the stem and use rule 1 again. So basically you're kind of going back through the rules, okay? After you divided off the first letter, okay? So let's look at an example of a word where rule 2 applies, okay? You will find that you use rule 2, especially when a word starts with 2 or 3 consonants. All right, so I'm going to give you this word, but it might be an easy word for you, but I'm still going to give it to you, okay? And we're just doing this so we can practice how to apply dissect in the rules of twos and threes.
Okay.
All right, so this is the word right here. All right, so I know you know this word, but we're going to practice it anyway. Okay?
Okay.
All right, so where would this word scandal, where should it be separated according to rule 1?
The two first letters.
Okay, so
The vowel.
hold on. Does it start with a vowel or does it start with a consonant?
Or consonant.
Okay, so it starts with a consonant. So what's the rule according to rule 1?
Divide off the first three letters.
Okay, so do that. Okay. All right. The word should look like this. So we did that. Explain that. So this doesn't it's hard to pronounce this right here, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it be hard to pronounce that? It's almost impossible to pronounce this ND right there.
Yeah.
Okay. So then we would go on to rule 2. So what does it say?
It says, if you can make up the sense of the stem after using rule 1, take off the first letter of the stem and use rule 1 again.
So we're gonna go ahead and take off. We're gonna divide it right there. Okay. So now we're gonna go back to rule 1. So what does rule 1 say?
Um, divide off the first 2 letters.
Okay. If it starts with a consonant, divide off the.
first 3 letters.
All right. So we kind of did that already. All right. So now you will go ahead and pronounce the word.
Stem,
Okay. Yes. All right. Does that make sense what we're doing?
yeah.
Okay. All right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to give you a practice sheet, and we're going to work through the first part of it together. Hey, how you doing?
Doing okay. How you, sis?
I'm fine. Good to see you.
Likewise. For a lifetime, you gotta tell me about it.
Yes, I will. I have a whole presentation on it, so I will show you. Okay, so let's go ahead and we're going to do this sheet, and we're going to practice this a bit more. So let's put these two. Let's clean our area. There's a lot going on. You might need these still, but you can put this stuff back, right? And I guess you can put this back because we didn't have a whole lot for you to do with the notes. All right, so let's practice this together now. Okay. So this sheet is all about the stem right here. Okay. So we're gonna work together to apply these rules of 2s and 3s. All right. So your worksheet list is some words in which prefixes and suffixes have already been isolated from the stem. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're gonna work through these together. So the first one, let's look at the first word, avalanche. Okay. What is the prefix? You might need to look at your prefix list and see if there is a prefix. Check your prefixes. Make sure it has a prefix. Okay. All right. So there is no prefix, right? Is there a suffix?
Yeah.
Are you sure? Did you check your list and make sure? Is there a suffix?
No.
All right, you're right. There's no suffix, right? Okay, so that means that we divide off. First of all, we need to look at the rules of 2s and 3s. So does this start with a vowel or does it start with a consonant?
Vowel.
Okay, so what do we do first?
You divide off the first 2.
All right, so go ahead and do that. Okay. Now, what does the rest of the stem begin with? What does that begin with now?
A language.
Okay, but is it a vowel or consonant?
Consonant.
This right here. Is it a vowel?
Vowel.
Okay, so what do we do next?
You divide off the next 2 letters.
Yep. Okay. All right, what about the rest of the stem? Does it start with a vowel or consonant?
Vowel.
So what do we do?
Divide into 2 letters.
Yep. So now we can pronounce the word.
Language.
Right, which I know you probably already knew that word, didn't you?
Yeah.
I know. But I still want you to practice the strategy, right?
Yeah.
All right, so All right, so now let's go ahead and let's take a look at the rest, and we're going to use the rules of twos and threes to determine how to pronounce our stems. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So does it start with a consonant or a vowel?
A consonant.
So where do we divide it? Based on your rules of twos and threes. What does rule 1 say? If it starts with a consonant, we do what?
Oh, you divide off the first 3 letters.
Go ahead. Okay. All right. So we can easily pronounce this. So what is it?
Confederate.
Mm-hmm. All right. So the next one. Does it start with consonant or vowel? And so where do we divide it?
Vowel.
This starts with a vowel?
No, consonant.
Okay.
The first 3 letters.
Okay. All right. So can you pronounce it?
Striation.
Okay. Striation.
Or striation.
Mm-hmm. All right. The next one.
Consonant.
Okay. So what do we do?
The divide off the first 3 letters.
Good. So what is that?
Refrigeration. Refrigeration.
Good. The next one?
Consonant.
Okay. Good. So what's that word?
Era. Profession. No. Professional.
Say the whole thing.
Era professionals.
Hold on.
Era. Professional.
Can you say the whole thing together?
Paraprofessional.
There you go. That's a long word. All right, what about the next one?
Vowel.
Is that what it starts with?
No consonant.
Okay. All right.
Circumnavigate.
Put it all together.
Circumnavigate.
Okay. Have you ever heard that word before? Yeah. Let's look it up. Let's see what it means. Circumnavigate.
Circumnavigate.
All right. Sail or travel all the way around something, especially the world. Okay?
Okay.
Go around or avoid an obstacle. Interesting. All right. And what about this one? Where would we divide that one?
The first 2 letters.
Are you sure? Because I think it says a vowel, we divide off the first 2 letters.
Yes, the first 2 letters.
But it says a vowel.
Consonant.
Starts with a,
First 3 letters.
okay. All right. So can you pronounce it?
Scandalous.
Okay, good. All right, the next one. And then I'm going to let you do the rest on your own. And then I'm going to have you pronounce them for me.
Okay. Consonant.
Okay?
Exclamation.
Okay, so it sounds like if you still you have to be confident that you can pronounce it, right?
Yeah.
If you're still not confident, then you need to go ahead and do the rule 1 again. So do the rule 1 again.
Okay.
All right, so pronounce these separately.
Play.
Mm-hmm.
Mac. Oh.
All right.
Exclamatory. 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 Exclamatory.
Exclamatory. You got it?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. All right, I'm gonna let you do the rest on your own, and then I want to hear you pronounce them. Okay?
Okay.
I'm gonna stop the video right here.